evening, fellow classmates. Today we're going to be going over some information on differentiation and engagement strategies and how to get students involved. And not only that, but what involvement actually does mean. So, to start with, my name is Dave Zamilio. I'm 34 years old. I'm a social studies teacher. I have experience with teaching students from 7th grade all the way up through 12th grade. I've done a little bit of everything. Currently, I do teach 7th grade, and I've been in that role now for a couple years, working with 12 and 13-year-olds and getting them engaged in the material. It can be tricky, so differentiation is nice to help with that. Other things that I've done, I also run after school clubs. I run a Dungeons and Dragons club for the kids to come in and have fun and be creative, and I also do creative writing with some students that are into that kind of stuff. I am a husband. I've been a husband now for 4 years. My wife and I just celebrated our 4th anniversary, and I'm a father. I have one daughter who just turned 1 back on January 10th. And my goal as a teacher is to strive to make a difference in the lives of pretty much any of my students. If anybody has any issues inside or outside the classroom, I make it my job to be there, be available to them, and to try to help them through in any way that I can. Be for them what I wish that I had at their age. Back to the topic of differentiation, though. Who actually benefits from differentiation? And the answer to that is everyone, because not everyone learns in the same way. Some of us are visual learners, and so adding things in there for visual enhancements, whether that is pictures, photographs, in my case in social studies, using actual documents from the time period or actual photos taken from that time period, or in some cases even using videos. Sometimes just in a different voice is enough to change it up, which then leads into our second differentiation of verbal. Speaking on material and having not only you speaking to them, but them speaking about it as well, can also help them understand and to absorb that information better. So having them ask questions. Maybe they're not giving you the answer to the question. Maybe they're adding to the question. What does this branch of government do? Well, why is it that that branch has this specific role? And having a conversation back and forth, having that verbal aspect can also activate the frontal lobes and help us absorb information better. Another way some students learn is through hands-on material. Actually being there and doing something hands-on. I can think of countless times, even when I was a student back in high school, taking tech classes, they could tell me how to do it, but until I sat down and got my hands on it and actually, entered the commands on the computer or used the tools or anything like that, it was easier to learn in a hands-on environment. So sometimes changing things up like that can help. And then lastly, another great one to use is to teach others. Getting ready to teach others is the way that the brain can really latch on to information. It's one of the best ways for us to keep it, retain it, understand it, because we need to be able to explain it to somebody else. And so as a teacher, that's something that I've realized countless times. As a student, I'm learning, I forget. I pay attention to things, I forget. And then I move on, and that's all there is to it. But as a teacher now, we go through and we have to know the information so that we can teach it to the students. Having them do that as well is another big, great use of differentiation. Strategies for bringing differentiation into the classroom. There are a few different strategies that could be used. One of them is indirect signals and visual information, using different colors on slides, different fonts, making certain words pop out to make them more remember, like to keep them in your brain easier, to help you remember them because they stand out. I don't have to say and stop and say, like, this is an important term if it's big, bolded, and in red when the rest of the slide is regular. Making sure everyone responds in some way, shape, or form is a great one. Too often we see students where we only have one or two or three students at most answering the same questions or different questions. It's always the same students. Having everyone have the chance to engage is really important. And so making them aware that they have an outlet to do this um, is a good way to differentiate. One of my favorite ways to do that is to use a whiteboard and have the students write their answers on the whiteboard and then hold them up. Because that leads into our next one, which is don't put students on the spot. If you put students on the spot, you're 9 times out of 10 guaranteed to get a deer in a headlight situation. We want them to engage. We don't want them to be afraid to speak up or to give their answers. And so we don't want to just call out one person. We want to make sure that we are allowing everyone to answer. And by writing it on the whiteboard, even if their answer is wrong, nobody's paying attention to their whiteboard. They're paying attention to their own. Lastly, another great technique is to set the tone. We want students to come to the class eager to speak out and eager to engage. And so to do this, we need to have a room where they feel safe, they feel supported, they feel comfortable, they feel like they want to be there. Because we don't want students that go and just put their heads down and go to sleep, or don't engage, or don't feel like they can speak up in class because they're not safe from other students in the room, or they feel like they'll be ridiculed if they get the answer wrong, or any such way of that. What is engagement? So when we actually look at what engagement is, it is when students are, to quote, they are enticed by their work and they persist no matter what the difficulties are. They pay attention to the routines, the instructions, but they also interact with the content. So engagement is more than just paying attention. It's being interested in it. It's absorbing it. It's actively listening. It's actively doing the assignments or getting involved in it or thinking deeper, critically thinking. Critical thinking is one of the best skills that we can teach young students. Brain chemistry and engagement goes hand in hand because we can affect the way students engage by talking about the different chemicals in the brain that will help with that. So the four chemicals are serotonin, cortisol, dopamine, and norepinephrine. Okay. Serotonin is the chemical that sets the mood. This helps your students feel more at ease when they come in the room. Cortisol has an impact on the brain shutting down. We don't want them to have too much of it or too little of it. We want to be right in that Goldilocks zone. So in order to get the most out of our students, we need to make sure that they have the decent relationships with each other, with the teacher, and again, that they're feeling safe and secure in the room. Because if cortisol levels get too high, there's going to be either shutting down or fighting or disengagement from the lesson and engaging elsewhere. Dopamine is the pleasure center of the brain. This is where we get that reward, sense in our brains. So having fun, unpredictable things happening in the classroom, getting up and moving around, all of these things will add to that dopamine release. All right, and then also, you can add in little prizes here and there or make a game out of it, competition, things like that. Things like Kahoots or Blookits are great for that kind of stuff. And then norepinephrine, if I'm saying that correctly, this is something that is released with movement. So having that movement not only helps with dopamine, but it helps with this chemical as well. And that chemical is what helps us direct where to put our attention to. So if we can activate all these chemicals in the brain, then we can stimulate engagement on a deeper level. And we can get engagement to not only once in a while be a part of our lessons, but always be a part of our lessons. And so by engaging and differentiating our lessons, we can make the class a much better place. Thank you.